Marketing Strategy for Authors. Written by Tao Wong. Narrated by Shannon Thompson. Other promotional tools. All right, now we've tackled the most common, and in many ways the most effective promotional tactics that indie authors use. Now, I'm going to list and discuss some more generic websites and other types of promotional tools. Search engine marketing, SEM. In terms of SEM, there are two major areas: getting good search engine rankings on pages, SERPs, or paid advertising, Google AdWords, etc. Google AdWords is another money killer. I've not heard of any major, for example, six-figure author, be a big proponent of it. I know from my own experience that it is often quite expensive. The biggest issue with AdWords is that you cannot track sales direct when you send over, so you can't tell if something is converting. Now, if you had a website that sold your products, for example, you were wide and set up an e-commerce store and had links, this might work. However, I've not tested this yet and don't know of any authors who have done so and talked of the great results. AdWords will eat your capital up and is even more finicky than Facebook ads. I would be very, very careful about touching this. For getting good SERPs, you need to start doing search engine optimization. I've written about that before on my blog, but the basic idea is that it's not worth the amount of time most authors would need to spend to get a good result, especially for a competitive keyword. To rank for your own author name, unless you have an extremely common name or one co-owned by someone famous, you should be able to rank for it with minimal effort, especially if it's Jaden Smith author. For other competitive keywords like fantasy or romance, you have almost no chance without significant investment. I might be rather dismissive about it, and that's mostly because unless you're gearing your entire strategy around developing a blogging or website platform, the amount of time you'll need to develop a good website to rank would, in my experience and view, be better spent writing. Mass media paid advertising. In general, the answer is no. You're welcome to check the cost, but even at the lowest levels, and you can look at books like Guerrilla Marketing to figure out how to lower your cost, the cost is prohibitive for most beginning authors. It's worth noting, it's not just the cost of the paid advertisement, but the cost of the creatives and the time finding the right locations and negotiating yourself a placement. On top of that, it's worth considering your demographics. Many mass media advertising is not targeted enough, so you'll be wasting a lot of funds when you do this. The small caveat I have is magazines, as some are very specific in their demographics and topics. For example, a gun magazine for a high-action, very well-written and researched action book, or maybe a history magazine for a historic fiction work, etc. YouTube and book trailers. YouTube channels take forever to build out. They can be a nice secondary source of income, via advertising when you reach the threshold to become a partner, and if you are inclined to do this, you can generate some fans. The biggest issue here, like with book blogging and the like, is consistency. For book trailers, I've yet to see anyone do really, really well at this. Again, the time taken and the cost generally do not pay back. This might change depending on your demographic, which is why research is worthwhile. But in general, just no. Public relations. I'm categorizing book reviews in large newspaper, book bloggers on the internet, YouTube book reviewers, and news appearances under this. On a strategic standpoint, public relations, PR, can both generate a significant amount of buzz, worth more than the equivalent in paid advertising for your time spent, and have greater impact. However, for the most part, PR is about generating awareness at the top end of the sales funnel. It will not, for the most part, generate sales immediately. Brandon Sanderson, in his publishing YouTube series, discussed how in his book visit, where there were 2,000 people coming for the signing, maybe 10% would buy a new book from the store. That means 200 new sales at best. Counterbalanced against that is the expenses of the visit, hotel fees, assistance, time taken for travel, etc. The point of PR is not to generate sales, but to generate awareness and long-term fans. So, while I'd add it to any toolbox, understand that it is something that needs to be done on a consistent and regular basis, but not with the expectation of immediate growth or change in sales. For PR, the most important aspect is that what you pitch should be news. New, exciting, weird, or sex. If you angle your pitch around any of those things, it often helps to convince editors and journalists. Side note about generating PR, you will often find that local newspapers, bookstores, etc. will be much more open to local authors. In addition, there is a secondary effect of having generated a high local presence over and above sales in that it opens you to new funding sources, grants, membership on boards or grant committees, school visits, etc. Awards. A short note about awards. They can be very useful for social proof. I'd recommend doing so if you can, but do research that such awards have some meaning. There are a ton of scam awards that are more pay to play and have almost no recognition. I would further point out that anecdotal evidence by those who have won big awards like the Hugos, Nebulas, etc., that they often see low to minimal increase in sales due to the winning of the award. The effect might come down further the road as further social proof and on-page or in-hand conversion rates if said awards are promoted, but direct correlation to sales are low. That is, by the way, the same for bestseller tags like USA Today bestseller or New York Times bestseller. They are useful social proof, but will not, in itself, increase sales of your work. Conventions, farmer markets, and other in-person sales. Generally, these can be useful for generating a small amount of sales and a low level of familiarity and income. Again, like many things, repetition often helps. Realize that in-person sales is a skill set that must be learnt and built. You'll need to work on your booth or table, merchandise properly, be on and friendly, and work your pitch and sales technique to generate the best return. In turn, you'll often only find that your daily sales are in the low single or double digits initially. It might never go more than that. Whether it's better to be writing or relaxing is up to you. It can often be easier to build real fans, as people put a face to the author, though again, this might not be something you choose to do. It is viable, but it is a lot of work, and if you are looking at conventions outside your hometown, the direct sales return is often not there. We have now covered the basics of the most common promotional strategies. Note that this is mostly a strategic discussion, so getting deep into the weeds of specific websites or locations is not my intention here. All this information is great, but how do you build your promotional and marketing plan? Well, here it is in brief.